Yo, what's happening, people? It's your boy Michael Griggs, and welcome back to Griggs Talks, where we talk all things sports. And today, got a Serie A preview. Obviously, Serie A starts Saturday. And to preview Serie A, I had to bring one of the most passionate football fans you'll actually find out there. Someone that makes my ranting look like nothing. Milan, one of the biggest Milan fans as well. My guy Bdair. How you doing, bro?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So first I want to ask, obviously, I watched your stream with Faisal, so I know you explained it there as well. But obviously, a lot of people, when they start watching football, kind of like me, I went into the Premier League. That's the first league that attracted me other than Greek football, since I'm from Greece. But how did you start? How did Milan catch your eye, in a sense?
To be honest, I've been asked that question a lot, and I don't know how to even explain it. I just, I guess I played FIFA with them or something like that. But like as soon as I was like aware of football, it was just Milan. I don't know how. I don't really have a direct memory of being like, okay, this is when I picked Milan. But yeah, since I was a kid, as soon as I started understanding football, it was always just okay, the Milan game's on, turn on the TV and so on. So since then, it's just been that.
Yeah, because for me, for example, United, bro, I just watched Ronaldo do stepovers. I'm like, yo, this is the coolest guy ever. Let me support this. And with Milan are actually my favorite Italian club because here in the States, like it was always Premier League, and I forgot the channel. I think it was like Fox Sports Go or something. They always had like the Serie A games and Milan. And I also remember my first Champions League memory was Ricardo Kaká absolutely skinning United. And I wasn't a hater back then, so I was just like in awe. I'm like, yo, this guy looks like the coolest thing on planet Earth. So like him, Rooney, and Ronaldo were my three people that really got me into the sport. So Milan always attracted me. Also the red color. I love the color red when it comes to football. Olympiacos, that's my Greek team. United and Milan. So always have support for Milan. And I always thought we would come back together, you know. You guys win the Serie A. I'm like, yo, United's gonna do it too, but we're still stuck in the mud. So with Milan, obviously you've had a very up and down summer. Obviously, I know everyone's heard your Maldini rants. It's very today. I saw the El Chiringuito. You're getting translated in different languages, bro.
I saw that too. Yeah.
In terms of the summer, if you had to give it a rating out of 10 so far, what would you give it and why?
This is the thing, okay? I like each of our deals individually. Like I like Ruben Loftus-Cheek, and I like Tijani Reinders, and I like Pulisic, and I like Yunus Musa, and so on. And so, by that token, like people will think that I hate any of these signings, but I don't. I like them all individually. It's all of it put together that I'm like, I'll say it's a 7 out of 10. It's not the home run 10 out of 10 some people want to make it, and it's not a disaster. They recovered from selling Tonali, who I was obviously devastated about losing, but they reinvested the money and they recovered in a good way. It wasn't the only way to recover better, in my opinion, was to go and get a superstar at one of the positions that needs. So not even a superstar, but somebody who's guaranteed at one of the positions of need. And at the beginning of the summer, I would have said striker was the number one priority. Then it was center midfield. Then it was right wing. So obviously we didn't get the guaranteed striker. We got a gamble, a risk in Noah Okafor, who probably will deputize between him and Giroud. So that's not exactly what we needed at the beginning of the summer. We weakened to strengthen in center midfield. We sold Tonali, and then we signed Musa, Reinders, and Ruben Loftus-Cheek. And like I said, I like all those guys, but together, are those guys the profiles that fit together and make a real cohesive midfield? No, in my opinion, the answer is no. Because I was saying this to somebody yesterday. So often we talk Milan. There's a lot of Milan discourse that ends up being like our left center back always is the one that's scapegoated, right? At first it was Romagnoli, and then he left, and now it's Tomori, and he's the one who has all the pylon on him now. And it's simply because the left center back is the one playing with a winger as his fullback. Okay, Teo Hernandez, God bless him. I support when I say that, people think that I want him to sit back and defend. No, I want him all the way up there because that's where his elite set of skills allows him to do that and be more impactful there. But with that comes the understanding that we're going to be exposed on the left. Add to that the fact that Leao just doesn't move off the ball; he's just chilling, right? And then you add, and now the idea is we play a 4-3-3, and Tijani Reinders is at left center midfield. And again, I love him. From what I've watched full games of him to really analyze. The dude looks incredible. He's probably he looks like he's going to be the best passer we've had in a decade, right? But 2 years ago when we had Kessie, that was basic. That's how our defensive shape was. Leao and Tonali bombing forward, and Kessie would Leao and Teo Hernandez would bombing forward, and Kessie would basically become the default left back out of possession, right? Or sorry, in possession. And now without that. Then last year Kessie left and it became Tonali in that role. And Tonali was a good defender, good not great, you know? So we suffered there. And now we're going from great to good to pretty bad defensively in Reinders. Who, again, love him, love the talent, think he's gonna be amazing. But the dude he doesn't even try making tackles. So the left-hand side is gonna be very exposed. And things like that. The one point we addressed A+ like superstar was right wing. We've needed a right wing for a long time. We got Samuel Chukwueze, perfect, ticks every box. Is gonna unlock our offensive game so much because teams the whole 3 years that Leao has been like a star, teams just slant the entire field to the left side because they know they don't have to worry about the right winger. They've never had to worry about Macias or Salamakers. And now if they do that, it's going to be punished. So I give it a 7 out of 10, a B+ overall. You know, there was an area to improve. Our depth has improved a lot, but there's some of the profiles I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, so let's say I'm assuming you think your window's done, or do you think that
they're saying that if certain, you know, if for example Origi leaves or something like that, then we could get another striker. But for all intents and purposes, the meat of our window is done.
I want to talk about your coach Pioli because he's very split from the couple Milan fans I know in the fan base. There's some that don't rate him. I know from your tweets, I know that you rate him. What is your overall opinion on him in terms of do you think that he can be obviously your aspirations are to win the Scudetto again? Do you think that he can coach you to another Scudetto your second in 3 years?
Of course. I mean, this is the thing. He did it, so yeah, he can do it again. But this is my thing. By the end of last season, I was at the point where I was like, if they sack him, I won't complain, right? Because the one hallmark of Pioli when he joined and throughout his first 2 years was he always made the right personnel decisions. So many, he would make so many substitutions. He would prioritize this player over that player, and every single time it was a masterstroke. Every single time it came off. And last year, just so many decisions, you know, not integrating Yassin Adli in any way, the way he handled CDK, Sadiq Kadlare. I mean, not that he helped himself, but, you know, waiting too long to integrate Malik Chow, persisting with Junior Macias time and time again when he was honestly borderline not a footballer then towards the end of the season. It was really, really bad. Things like that where I was like, okay, the main thing my general opinion is coaching is a bit overrated, right? It's all about the squad. If you have the best squad, you win the league, and if you don't, you often don't win the league, right? But all you have, the number one requirement as a manager is to put the right players on the field, right? And last year we just weren't doing that, in my opinion. So by the end of that, I was fine with him leaving if he weren't. But they backed him. They backed him. They said, we're actually going to go again with this manager. And I'm perfectly fine with that. I was the status I was of all summer was I'm neutral. If they sack him, I'm not losing my mind. And if they don't, I'll support him. We move on. You know, I think he's plenty good enough to lead us to a title. And, you know, everybody's judging him based on last season. Last season's squad was just not conducive to winning. It just wasn't. So I think it's unfair to blame him for last season.
Yeah, I think last year, it looked like everything that could go wrong for you guys would always go wrong. The Milan derbies, the Champions League, that semifinal. No disrespect, that was one of the most boring semifinals.
It was the worst. It was terrible. It was awful. I mean, yeah.
But I want to ask. Your summer. I was gonna ask you your best signing. I'll give mine first, in terms of your club. For me, Chukwueze. I just think you talk about your right wing situation. I always like in our club similar because Rashford, Leao, they always get the comparison between each other. For me, it was the same on the right wing. It was always drift to Rashford, Daniel James on the right wing, Anthony, whoever the hell was on that right hand side, atrocious. And Messias, like you say, he's not a footballer. I'm pretty sure 2 years ago he actually wasn't a footballer. Was he like not? Like I don't know.
It was like 5 years ago or something. He was
5 years ago. This guy was an actual professional footballer.
Yeah.
So Chukwueze, obviously, I know for Villarreal, he's explosive. And like you talk about the striker, if you sign like another top, like not top, but like a younger athletic striker that's not at the pace of a thing like Olivier Giroud is, great career and everything, but the guy is just not it anymore.
Yeah.
So hopefully Okafor takes over because he had good prospects from Salzburg. He looks quick and he's had Champions League experience. So for me, Chukwueze, I just think if you can unlock him, and obviously Leao sees less double teams, and just you can unlock a different. So who is that your summer of the signing as well? Or are you giving it to someone else?
It's between him and Tijani Reinders, in my opinion. I think those guys, like you said, Chukwueze, I think is just going to take the league by storm because of the space that Leao affords him. It's either going to be that, it's either going to be like he scores and assists a lot because of the space, or teams are gonna respect him and they're gonna widen the field. And if that happens, then Leao one-on-one, Leao's entire rise to stardom has been with two guys holding his hand, basically two defenders holding his hand every single possession. If he plays, if for the entirety of the season he's one-on-one, he's gonna get so many goals and so many assists. So I think that him and like I said, Reinders, I think just technique-wise, passing-wise, we haven't had a player like this with this kind of ability in a long time. There's not a pass on the field that he can't execute.
And then if there's one player to watch out for Milan, who would it be?
I think if I had to pick like a young player of the season or something like that, it would be Make Chow, because now he's gonna finally become he's gonna get the starting spot to start the season. I mean, his passing is incredible. That's the one thing he has over all other center backs. Although I think Tomori is still our best center back, but the way Malik Chow can pass the ball is different than Kalulu and Tomori. And I mean, the athleticism, the physicality, the speed, all that kind of stuff. He still has mistakes, and I always say our right center backs get a little overrated because, like I said, the left center back is always on an island. But he has everything to be like a really, truly world-class center back as he develops.
Yeah, and then we didn't talk about him, but Yunus Musa, obviously, we both live here in the States, so we know how highly I rate him. I think he's America's, like, him and Balogun are the best players in the country, in my opinion. Are you guys playing him like as an 8, or are you playing him as a 6?
The thing is, I don't know exactly. Krunic is set to start at 6, so if that's gonna happen, then he'll probably Yunus Musa will probably play at 8, which is his best position and where I hope we play him predominantly. With him, it's just the only thing is he's just young, and he's coming in with two guys like much more experienced than him in Ruben Loftus-Cheek and Reinders. So I'm expecting, which is actually a good situation for him to be. I'm expecting him to just come in and just have like a Tonali type season. In Tonali's first season at Milan, he was behind Benasser and Kessie, not as much pressure, and frankly, he was pretty bad. But that's the growing pains of having a 20-year-old center midfielder. They're not going to be 100% ready. And on the other hand, Yunus Musa has never played with players this good. He's never played with this much space, and he's never been on a team that has been able to really sustain being on the front foot for the majority of his career. He was at Valencia, and they always had to, were a bad team in his time. So, I think he's going to be really good. He's the one I'm most excited about. I think his upside is like crazy high. I'm just not like I'm being patient for this season. I hope he surprises and he just becomes incredible already immediately. But I'm being patient given that he's 20.
Yeah. I'm happy he went to Milan, not a Prem club, because I would have scared that they might mess up his development. Because I'm seeing Nottingham Forest go for UCL midfielders today, like Yusuf Fofana. It's a mess over it. So yeah, that's pretty much. We'll talk about like league predictions towards the end when we make our predictions. Next club, let's just go with the neighbors, Inter. Obviously, the UCL finalists. They've had an up and down summer. They've had the Lukaku saga, which is a whole another thing in itself. I know you just did a Lukaku video as well on your channel. They lost Dzeko. I think he went Fenerbahce, but they signed Marcus Thuram under your noses, of course. And who else did they sign? They signed
Davide Fratesi. They signed. They signed this youngster, Jan Bisek. He's a center back. And because they also lost Milan Skriniar.
Yeah,
They lost Brozovic, which is huge. They lost
Onana to us, of course.
All right, Onana, of course, yeah. They lost a lot of production. They lost a lot of experience, and they brought in.
I'm looking at their football right now. Arnautovic, they just signed from Bologna.
Yeah, I mean that's
the Lukaku. I guess that's Lukaku replacement.
Yeah,
Carlos Augusto from Monza.
He's top.
Good.
He's not gonna play as much because they already have Federico De Marco, who's really, really good.
Yeah.
But Carlos Augusto's a ball. He'll score like 10 goals off the left wing back or like something like that.
Jan Sommer was obviously the Onana replacement.
Yeah.
Juan Cuadrado, which I have no idea why they signed Juan Cuadrado. Makes no sense to me.
Right wing back depth, man. It doesn't even matter. Yeah. He's like Victor Moses. Yeah.
So with them, obviously, for me, it looks like they kind of took a step back because you mentioned Brozovic. For me, Brozovic, Barella were like two of them, arguably, them two and Lautaro are the three most important players. And losing your captain, he was captain when Skriniar got exiled. Missing that piece, do you expect him to like kind of take that step back as well, or do you think that Inzaghi can do the job to kind of keep them up where I'm sure the aspiration is to fight for Scudetto again as well, but do you think that he can with that many losses, do you think that they could do it, or do you think they take that step back to like the third, fourth spot?
I think everybody can compete. Everybody can compete because basically everybody got worse. I think the only teams in the top 6 or 7 that have like an actual argument to have improved are Milan and Atalanta. Other than that, everybody has a very clear, in my opinion, a very open and shut case to have become worse through a lot of the sales that have happened this summer. So I think the Skriniar departure is made a lot easier by the fact that he didn't play. He was injured for the last 6 months. So they have a trial run, and they did well. They did well towards the end of the season. Obviously, they made the Champions League final, and then they went on a really, really good run to make top 4 in the league. So I think they have at least a proof of concept of how they play without him, right? Because a year ago, if you had asked me what would happen to them if they lost me on Skriniar, I said like forest fires and like the San Siro would collapse, half the San Siro would cave in on them. But now it's like, okay, they've actually shown that they can play without him. So that's less of an issue. Although you would like this young kid, this Jan Bisek, like he actually has to come in and contribute a little bit because their center back depth is pretty old, Yeah, Acerbi, De Vrij, Darmian is going to be playing right center back. So like it's not a very youthful. Well, Bastoni, of course, he's the only one. But the bigger concern for them is they lost Brozovic, and so this is the thing. They beat us 4 times in the second half of last season, right? We played them 5 times last season. God almighty. And we lost 4 of them in the second half of the season. And a lot of them were with Hakan at defensive midfield, Hakan Çalhanoğlu. And they basically, the year before when we won the Scudetto, famously, I think Brozovic missed like 6 games and Inter weren't able to win a single one of them, right? That's how important he was in our Scudetto season. He basically made or break. He basically, his absence lost them the title, in one way to say it. And then this past year, he was less important than that because obviously with age and things like that. And Hakan at defensive midfield was a viable option for them, but in both formations they were bad. Like in the league, both formations they were very inconsistent. They dropped a lot of points. Both Hakan at defensive midfield and at Brozovic at defensive midfield. And the thing is now, with Brozovic leaving and not having a real replacement, is it goes from Hakan at defensive midfield being one of your tools, one of your options in the arsenal, to being your only option. And if Hakan gets injured or loss of form or anything like that, you're relying on Christian Aslani, who's a child and who Inzaghi wasn't willing to trust that much last year. So that's my problem with their midfield, is that there's a lot hanging on, Hakan Çalhanoğlu. And then in attack, like you said, they lost Lukaku and Dzeko, both guys that with their unique skill set, like the hold up play they had, they opened up a lot of avenues in the different ways they could play. And both those guys being gone, Marcus Thuram doesn't bring what those guys bring. So I'm interested to see, although I'm not going to say that I didn't want Marcus Thuram. I did want Marcus Thuram at Milan, and I think he's a good player. But it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how they play because he's not like those other two who left.
Yeah, I mean, Dzeko is one of the most criminally underrated strikers of the last decade. Lukaku is, when he's fit in Serie A, he always bangs.
He's a great player. He's just a head case. But
yeah. But yeah, he has his own problems.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. Move on to the Serie A champions. Obviously, their biggest move was obviously the loss of Luciano Spalletti, their head coach. They brought in the last replacement I ever thought they would bring in. That was out of left field, as they say.
Yeah.
I think it's Rudy Garcia. That's his name, Rudy Garcia.
Mm-hmm.
They brought him in terms of their signings. I know they're trying to sell Lozano. That's like the big one I've seen.
They signed Jens Gajust from Stade Reims to bolster the midfield, and then they replaced Kim Min-jae, the Serie A defense. Yeah, Nathan or Nathan or whatever his name is. Yeah, they replaced Serie A Defender of the Year, Kim Min-jae, who left to Bayern, with Nathan, who's he's completely unknown quantity. But in fairness, so was Kim Min-jae when they signed him, and then he ended up being one of the best center backs I've ever seen. So, I don't know. I have to give them. Last season, I was so low on them when they sold Koulibaly and Insigne.
So was I.
And I think for good reason. Like I didn't know. Nobody knew, and anybody who said is liar. Nobody knew who Kvaratskhelia or Kim Min-jae. Nobody knew that they were this ready this early. And they came in and they were, literally the league MVP and the defender of the year. So it's like they were instant impact. And now they lose the defender of the year and they bring in another unknown. But I have to give them the benefit of the doubt that after what they pulled off last season, I have to at least give them some leeway to do that. To me, I think they're the Scudetto favorites. In terms of just after that season, the way they were, it was a 30-point gap, I think, between them and Milan or something like that in fourth. So when you look at it that way, okay, Kim Min-jae is a huge loss, of course. But all this Nathan guy has to do is just be good. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't have to be Kim Min-jae. He doesn't even have to be spectacular because the rest of the defense is still there. Amir Rahmani, Meret in goal, Di Lorenzo. Like they have a good foundation. Their midfield is the same. Zielinski was rumored to go to Saudi, and then he rejected that. So that was huge for them. And like that's also a big part of why I would say they're the Scudetto favorites because they kept the title-winning midfield, who probably performed the best last year, and they kept the title-winning attack, which was by very, very, very far the best last year, and nothing suggests that they wouldn't continue. Like Osimhen and Kvara is, as long as Osimhen stays healthy, like that's a recipe for a shit ton of goals. So I still think that even if Rudy Garcia, if I was Rudy Garcia, I'd walk in that dressing room and be like, listen, what did he tell you to do? Do that. What did Spalletti tell you to do? Just do it again. Just keep going.
Just call him up and ask for the same tactics, honestly.
I wouldn't change a thing. I would have the same lineup, the same stuff, just go right back to it.
One thing with Napoli, though, part of it, I think, was attributed to the fact that they were so far ahead. I think towards maybe the last 15 games, they did look a little bit weaker. I think that you saw the kinks in the armor and stuff like that, but I think part of it is because they were 25 points ahead. They knew the Scudetto was wrapped up. So obviously you kind of take your foot off the gas at that point. But Kim Min-jae is obviously the one. But like you said, when you have Osimhen and Kvaratskhelia, that's probably
the margin for error. Yeah, the margin for error is just big.
And this is without a right winger. If they had a right winger to that, any half decent right winger to that, it's because Politano is decent, but Lozano, that guy's just not good at the sport of football. No disrespect to him, but there's a reason why Mexico are washed up in this 2023. But yeah, I think they also made Simeone permanent as well. So that was kind of the kid striker.
He was an obligation, so he was always going to come there. Yeah.
So yeah, that's good for them, obviously. But for me, I do think that they'll take a little step back because it's just I think it's kind of impossible to keep up the pace that they did last year.
Yeah, for sure.
I hadn't seen a team in Serie A that dominant since obviously the dominant Juve teams when Serie A was at its worst, and I do think the league, as much as issues as it does continue currently have, it has improved in terms of quality. So we'll see how they do. Next up, I know they're not in UCL. Well, they're not in Europe at all this year, but they're still one of the biggest clubs in Serie A. The old lady, Juventus. What have you made of their summer so far?
Well, they just haven't done much, really. They signed Timothy Weah, That's their basically only really notable signing. They sold, they lost Di Maria on a free. They sold Dennis Zakaria for 20 million. I don't know how they pulled that off, but they sold. Oh, this is the one. They sold Nicolo Rovella, this young talent that they had to Lazio for 17. Well, a loan with an obligation, whatever. It's one of those. Disaster, absolute disaster, because they are not talented enough in midfield to be giving up, in my opinion, one of Italy's most talented players of this generation. I think he's going to do incredible at Lazio. And for them to not even give him a shot, he did everything right. He went to Genoa on loan, and he was fantastic. Then the next year, he went to Monza on loan last year, and he was fantastic. And to not even give him a shot is just it's a disaster, to be honest. On the other hand, Allegri, he just has a way, man. He has a way of beating the small teams. The small teams, he will just kick the shit out of them over and over and over. And that's why I still, a lot of people are down on them, and I understand it. Like I said, when you lay out their transfer window, when you lay out their starting 11, nothing about it says this is a top 4 team. But I can't shake it that for the past 2 years, they've played disgusting, awful football with a squad that is not that good, and all this kind of and all this, the chirping and all the controversy on the outside, all that stuff. And yet still, if it wasn't for the sanctions, off the field sanctions, stuff that had nothing to do with those 23 footballers and manager on the pitch, if it wasn't for that, they still would have finished 4th last year. So it's like I think I'm higher on them than consensus, just because if you beat the small teams enough, you're gonna get into top 4.
I'm not gonna lie, actually, I had them before, like the Rovella and everything. They were like my dark horse in a sense. I didn't actually think they would do it, but like I wouldn't be like shocked out of ordinary because they're only playing once a week to actually win Serie A. This Allegri guy has a deal with the devil. Let's just say that. This guy, like, you couldn't pay me to watch an Allegri game because it's the most disgusting brand of football you'll ever see in your life. But like you said, he always finds a way. The 1-0 victory master, whether it's a Di Maria, like screamer, everything, the X factor. This year, maybe it's a Pogba X factor if he can stay on the pitch for more than 5 minutes. We'll see if he actually does that. I hope he does in his case because he's a talented player to watch. But Rovella, because I remember there was a game against Monza Juve. I think the kid had like 110 touches against him or something like that. Some like incredible performance. And you would think watching that live in the flesh in 4K, literally, that you would keep
and
him.
Monza did the double on them.
Yeah,
Monza beat them home and away. It was crazy.
And like I think Juve, for like the first time in such a long time, their academy looked like it was actually going to save them again, in a sense, the homegrown kids, the way that it saved them in 2006, Del Piero, the legends. And this time, it could have been the kids that saved them from this obscurity, like this downfall that they were heading for. But in Juve fashions in the late since the 2015 and everything like that, whoever's upstairs just has no idea. But first, it was Nedved, who is a lost case of his own. The guy's completely lost. But I don't know. Fagioli, I think, is another player that's like top talent. What's his name? I think is it Idling Jr., the kid that they got from Chelsea.
Meretti.
Meretti. They have talented, and I think Paul was a good like leader, influence on those kids. But Timothy Way, it doesn't make sense to me as a sign, to be honest. I don't rate him that highly. I think he's an okay player, but I also don't know what formation Allegri plays. Is he gonna play the 3-back again, or is he gonna like? Yeah,
I think Weah will be the right wing back. To me, I was also like, I mean, he's a good player. He's a fine player. I thought the same thing. In preseason, he looked really good. They played us in preseason, and they played Barcelona, I think, as well. Or no, sorry, that was delayed. They played somebody else in that.
I think they played Real Madrid. I think they played.
They might have been, yeah. And he looked really good in those 2 games. So, I mean, maybe he offers something, but it's not going to be something that too meaningful. Like to sway your prediction one way or another, really.
Yeah, I hear it, but like I said, they don't have Europe, so I think that's going to be their biggest benefit. They don't have to. I'm sure they're actually probably happy because I don't think they want to play in Conference League. I think for them, I'm gonna assume a club of their stature thinks that's below them. I'm not sure, but
it is below them. I don't think they wanted to play anyway.
Yeah, I think they might play the once a week because because their squad's not that big, like we said. So like it kind of keeps your squad fresh, and especially Paul Pogba. They got asking Pogba to play twice a week in 2023. It's just not gonna
Asking
happen.
Popo to play once a week.
Once a week is hard enough. Getting him out to bed for the first time. And then the other UCL club, of course, is Lazio. We just talked about Ravello. They signed him. Maurizio side. I think this is gonna be his third year. I believe so.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
At the club. They made the UCL football. They lost their superstar, obviously, Milinkovic-Savic. He went to Al Hilal. What do you think that they can again stay in the top four, or do you think that they come out for one of the other clubs?
I think for sure they could. I think I have them fifth, but like right on the borderline, like so close.
Does that make you so for you guys? Are you guys gonna get that coefficient, the extra one? Or
I think it depends on this year's.
This year, okay.
So okay. This year, when if Italian clubs do well, then we get the fifth spot. Okay. Which is true. I haven't even started thinking about that with all the respective. I just don't want to deal with it. I'll deal with it like in the last third of the season. Yeah, when it starts actually being like defined, because that's when you'll know who what leagues have the best coefficient that year. But yeah, I have them fifth, but like very borderline. The only thing, like if they had kept Milinkovic-Savic and then all the rest of their moves, I would have them maybe second. But they lost Milinkovic-Savic. They replaced him really well with Rovella, Daichi Kamada on a free. They signed Gustav Isaksen from Denmark, and he's a goal scoring winger. Personally, I haven't watched him, but they did need a right winger, so it's at least a position I need. They signed Tati Castellanos, who used to play for NYCFC, and scored a super hat trick against Real Madrid for Girona this past season. But so I've liked their transfer moves. The only reason I have them fifth and not fourth is just Milinkovic-Savic is such a huge loss, obviously. And although I really like Kamada and Rovella, they're just not the same. They're just not the same player. The physicality, they lose so much physicality without Milinkovic-Savic, and that's already a team that in midfield was pretty not physical. You know what I'm saying? You take him out and you replace him with two, small, slender guys. It's not the same. They need a more physical presence that they probably don't have in midfield. But I think they could easily sneak into fourth.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, Ciro Immobile is still there. The guy's still kicking about. He'll end up with his 15 league goals no matter what.
Yeah.
Did he get that last year? I don't remember this. Did he get 15 league goals last year?
I think he got injured more last year. I'm not sure. He probably still did, honestly. He's easy. Like, this is the thing. The criticism about Immobile all his life was that, like, oh, he scores, but nobody remembers the goals. Nobody has ever seen one of his goals. It's like, okay, I mean, it's true in that he's like a small team bully and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, somebody has to score against Salernitana. Because if nobody scores against Salernitana, you know what you do? You lose or you draw, right? So somebody has to score against the small teams. And hey, he was cleaning up. He got 36 league goals one season. Like, he was cleaning up.
And man, 1920, if COVID never happened, who knows what Lazio would have done? Because they were sniffing that Serie A title before COVID happened. So
for sure.
Lazio, I mean, I didn't really watch that much Lazio last year because they're not a team I really find fascinating in a sense. Milinkovic-Savic, personally, he's a great player, but I've been linked with him every single summer since I was 16 years old that I actually can't watch the player. So I'm happy Al Hilal finally signed him and he's out of Europe. That way we're never linked with him again, bro. Because I promise you, at first I thought he was a fake player. Like, it was like the guy 10 stuff. Like, they just made him up a rumor, but finally he's out. But I mean, Al Hilal, that team's another story there. They're cooking. That's my Saudi team, by the way. I've claimed them. That's the team I picked.
Saudi Real Madrid.
Neymar. Giannis gave him the cosign, so I gotta once Giannis chose him, I gotta Neymar and Giannis cosign, I gotta go there. But but they did lose that final to. They lost to Al-Nassr in that cup final. Yeah. And then another team, obviously in the Big Six, Roma, last year's Europa League finalist that lost. Jose Mourinho couldn't get his second Europa League trophy. How do you feel about this? I know they just lost Matic to Rennes, but it looked like a move that was meant to happen because he was causing a fuss. Dybala stayed. I know there were some rumors of him, like that clause that was in, which I had no idea how it didn't get triggered because I figured any team would just trigger that because it's followed Dybala. But so how would you rate their summer?
Their summer is just they signed everybody on frees or loans or I think the most they spent was $2 million on Leandro Paredes. Their summer is just underwhelming. It's the same summer they've had for the past 3 years. They are just not good. Flat out, they're just not a good team. Like there's a spine of something that could be good, but they just surround it with such a weird assortment of nonsense every year. It's just not a good team. They'll finish. I have them at 7th. I have them even lower than the top. Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna talk about Atalanta, but Atalanta are better than them. So like, they're I have them finishing 7th. They're just not very good.
I'm looking at their sign. Renato Sanchez. I just can't.
This is
what
I'm
saying.
Trust
that guy to play 10 games. You can't trust that guy.
But this is what I'm saying. You read the names, and it's like it's actual names. Like, oh, Leandro Paredes, he was in Champions League final, and then it's like, oh, Renato Sanchez, like, oh, cool. And then
Awar,
I'm right, and he was linked to Arsenal and this and that, and all these players, and Evan Ndicka, and on a free transfer, everybody wanted him, right, and all that kind of stuff. And then it's like, okay, cool, but like, Tammy Abraham is out with an ACL. And Berotti's going to be their striker who didn't score at all last season, which was a big surprise. But yeah, it's just a bit underwhelming is the thing.
They lost Roger Ibanez too. I think he was one of the most important center backs to our league. So fair enough. Yeah. You know what? Are they in Conference League? I'm guessing. I think. Or they in
Europa? They're in the Europa League. Yeah, they're in the Europa League.
Oh, so forget. Yeah, you're right. 7. Jose's going to ditch the league. These guys are because we talk about 7th in Serie A, but I promise you, somehow, some way, Jose Mourinho will find himself in another Europa League final.
Oh yeah, for sure. His style suits the knockout. Yeah. He's just gonna park the bus. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know what. Maybe it's FIFA. I can't lie. This might be a FIFA merchant thing, but I always want like every time I play FIFA, I love using Aura, and he was such a good prospect at Lyon. But then he fell off the face of the earth, and I saw the one goal that he scored in preseason with the ball, the nice link up. I'm like, yo, save me a spot, bro.
Hey, I mean, I really hope he figures it out and he puts it all together. I would like that, but you know, it's just they just sign these players. They don't sign, you know, guaranteed players. They don't. Yeah, exactly. They don't sign somebody who's just gonna come in and do the job. They sign all these names, and that's just not gonna work out.
Atalanta, one of my favorite teams in the Serie A for like last 5 years. Gasperini ball. Changed my life in a sense in terms of Serie A. That's what really brought me back to Serie A because like the football was like, and then he hit this high flying attack, attacking style. UCL, the game against PSG where they almost made it to UCL semifinal, which obviously was a heartbreaker. They've obviously lost Rasmus Højlund to my club, the big fee. I'm gonna ask about him first. Do you think what would you rate the signing from a Man United perspective in terms of Højlund? What kind of because you watched him more than me, I'm gonna assume I haven't really watched him that much. How would you rate him as a player?
As a player, I love him. I love the talent. You could check my tweets. I had a million tweets saying, "Milan, can we please sign this guy?" Now, obviously, I didn't realize that a Premier League club was going to come in and jack up the price like lunatics. But I love the talent. I think he's incredible. The dribbling ability and the speed at that size at the striker position, it's very, very rare to find. So I think he ticks a lot of the boxes. Is he worth 75 million? Of course he's not. But you're not signing him for now. I think could he become a 75 million striker? Yeah, for sure. Like I think he will become a 75 million striker. And from a United perspective, it's literally as simple as you played most of the season last year without Weghorst. So it's like all he has to do is just be like everybody's been like, oh, he only scored 9 goals. Like, yeah, exactly. Isn't that like 8 more than Weghorst? Like all he has to do is just be competent. You know what I'm saying?
Just run. I hate Weghorst. I had a calendar on my phone when his loan would run out. I swear to God. This guy always made me lose my passion for football.
But this is the thing, right? I always say when people talk about transfers, the one factor they never mention is that, like, for example, Rasmus Højlund. Rasmus Højlund has never played in his entire life, at any stage in his entire life, has ever played with a player like Bruno Fernandes or like Marcus Rashford or Casemiro. All these guys. Like, do you understand how much easier life is when you have these players with you? Like, it's just he's never been supplied in this way, in the way that he's about to.
If you think about it, like how much, like if you played in the past Atalanta team, like a Papu Gomez or Joseph Ilicic, it would kind of be scary to think about how many goals he actually could have gotten then. Because that team was obviously much better creatively. So I'm excited for the signing personally because, like you said, Wild Weghorst, Anthony Martial, those guys don't exist to me no more. Exactly, Martial's part of the squad. I don't care about him. In my life, in another alternate universe, that guy's somewhere in Saudi Arabia playing for Al Ettifaq and Jordan Henderson. He's not in my locker room. So I'm excited for the kid. But back to Atalanta. Obviously, they're in Europa League. I think they're in Europa League as well. They're in Europa League.
Yep,
They're obviously going to try to fight back for the Champions League spot that they occupied for 3 years in a row. Do you have them in your top 4, or do you have them kind of?
I have them 6th. I'm a little bit lower on them than some people. I just, I think the staple of their greatness when they were in that 3-year run was the hyper athleticism and the physicality of the wing backs and the midfielders. They've maintained that speed and physicality in attack, but in midfield and on the wings, it's just not the same. And the center backs aren't the same. They always used to have that one aggressive.
They kept rotating.
Center back with like incredible speed. It was Caldara first, then it was Toloi, then for a season it was Kisha Romero. And you know what I'm saying? Like those guys were so great on the ball, so physical, so fast, all this kind of stuff. They just haven't been able to get that guy. And they've sold Merih Demiral to Saudi, or they're about to, I guess. So, and that he was supposed to be the guy who came after Kisha Romero, and that didn't work out as well. So, yeah, I think I have them 6th.
Obviously, the one transfer I want to talk about is a guy that left from your club over there, Charles de Catelier, who I had actually high hopes when he got to Milan because he looked out of this world at Club de Bruges. Yet this guy came to Milan and put up the zeros, pretty much that Tony Snell stat line. It felt like the zeros across the board.
He had 1 assist in his debut.
Okay, fair enough. He put up that one. What do you think went wrong with CDK at Milan?
I think a lot went wrong, but fundamentally, yes, there was complaints about how Pioli didn't give him as much time and this and that. But fundamentally, he had a lot of. We can cut this out.
No. My mom walking, but you're good.
You're good. Fundamentally, he just had. He just had so many opportunities. He'd come on in a game. He just never looked like he wanted it. I don't know how else to describe it. He just never looked like he was gonna, kick on and just go above and beyond for the position. In a way that Brahim Diaz, who was not as talented, right? But Brahim Diaz would come in and he would just press. If he wasn't going to do shit on the ball, although Brahim Diaz has a really, really big, a great big game resume. Like he scored in so many important spots for us over his 3-year career at Milan. But even when he wasn't doing that, his pressing, his tenacity, his willingness to play on any part of the field, just do whatever the team needs, that always got him a spot in the team. And CDK just seemingly didn't look like he was motivated to do that when the goals weren't coming. Like when he first came into the team and he was starting a lot, and the team probably squandered like 5 or 6 assists of his, right? Like he would set up somebody, clear cut shot, just miss, saved or something like that. And I think it messed with his mentality as the media piled on. Oh, he doesn't have a goal yet. He doesn't have this. He doesn't have that. And I was later in the season, in around like February. I went to Italy, and I went away to watch Monza versus Milan, and he came on and he had an open goal, and he just hesitated, and then it gets blocked off the line, and that was like part 80 of all the times that he almost scored, but it just seemed so cursed. And I think all those times just kept piling on him. The media kept piling on him, and it was just too much for him. He never, I don't think he ever recovered mentally. And I hope that, this loan move with a lot less pressure and a lot less, eyes, and probably in a better attacking system for him, helps him out.
I mean, yeah, Atalanta, if you can't make it as an attacker, there might be something wrong with you because they seem to get the best out of every single person. And then the other striker that they signed, they signed 3 forwards in a sense. Gianluca Scamacca, someone I was high on when coming out of Sassuolo under De Zerbi. I was shocked when he went to West Ham. That was like, what is a polar bear doing in Arlington, Texas type shit? Because that was, I think I've seen Mikel Antonio talk about my filthy fellas. Like, it's just a signing that makes no sense. There was obviously a disconnect between board and manager. He got his move finally out of the Premier League, and probably might be the last time you see an Italian attacker in the Premier League for kind of a minute. Because I think Leah's did the video on it, bro. It just doesn't work between Italians. Obviously, Tonali's going to probably change the narrative around it a little bit. But how would you rate the move for Scamacca? Because do you think that like he can get back to those Sassuolo levels before he got his move?
Yeah, I think so. I think he could definitely get back to Sassuolo levels. I mean, look, when he left Sassuolo, I thought he was a really good player. I wasn't in love with him because I thought there was some flaws in his game, but he's a really good striker, and I mean, like you said, if you can't succeed at Atalanta as an attacker, you can't succeed anywhere on this earth. Like those guys, it's all about attack for them, and I think he's going to do really well. His hold up play is good. He's a good striker of the ball, and he in a league that's probably less fast and less physical. I think he's going to thrive. Not that the pace I hate the pace and the power of the Premier League. Like that's what derailed him. No, he just went to a bad team. But yeah, it's definitely going to help him to play in a team that's set up more set up and more conducive for him to be successful.
Yeah, because honestly, like in the Premier League, maybe he could have succeeded. I think like if he came to United, I think he would have succeeded more. Like at a Man United goal, David Moyes literally makes your striker a workhorse. Like you just have to chase the ball all game long. Obviously, Scamacca is more like of a luxury striker, like. The link-up play, the 1-2s. Who would he play 1-2s with at West Ham? There's no one there. Paqueta is doing graveyard shifts at DM. So
you're gonna do 1-2s at the halfway line. It's not really the same, is it?
David Moyes is that. So I'm actually glad he got his move out there. He's a quality striker. Obviously the original Holland replacement was El Bellator from Almeria. I'm not gonna lie, I've never seen him play before. I've never watched Almeria play before, so I'm not gonna say I know about him that much. I'm looking at the other signing. Oh, they signed Kolasinac. Take a signing.
Right.
I don't know about that. Mitchell Bakker, the guy from PSG a couple years ago. But I'm excited. I think I'm more excited to watch Scamacca CDK because CDK like obviously didn't go right at your club, but hopefully at other clubs. And the other team, the last team, because they made the Conference League final last year, the kit that you're wearing. There's one player I really want to talk about. It's a guy that my club is taking 9,500 years to sign him. Because we can't sell a player to save our life. Sofyan Amrabat. What are your opinions of him as a player?
I think he's fantastic. I mean, I've been campaigning. I've been on the Amrabat to Milan train for like 3 years, and it's obviously, unfortunately, never going to happen. But like, I think he's phenomenal. I think the funniest misconception I see I see from Premier League fans is that they're always like, oh, but he plays at Fiorentina. He's just because they saw him at the World Cup, and it's just like, oh, he's just a shin kicker. Man, Fiorentina is literally the most possession-based team in the entire league. Like they don't get that. And I thought having I guess maybe not everybody watched the Conference League final, but I would have thought if you watched that, you saw how possession-based they are and how much, frankly, better he was than all the other West Ham midfielders. So I just think he's a top player. He's exactly what a lot of teams need. He can this is the thing. The best summary of him is that he is the focal point of the most possession-based team in Italy and a brilliant defensive side in Morocco. Like the fact that the people have only seen the Morocco side, but if anything, that shows you how good he is the fact that he could completely go the other way, right? And just be like the destroyer, win the ball, progress the ball quick up the field, dribble, and all that kind of stuff that he did with Morocco. And on the other hand, with Fiorentina, he's the guy who sits at the base and gets 100 touches and makes 1,000 passes and does all that stuff. The fact that he could do both of those things shows, how elite his skill set is.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday when the Liverpool news came out, I was lost my mind, but thankfully he said, "Bun them guys." He wants to come. He wants to join us because obviously Ten Hag managed him at, I think, was it Utrecht? This guy has a monopoly on Dutch football these days. It's his side hustle. But I've said this before. I said Ten Hag is running a mafia type thing on Eredivisie.
He takes a cut.
Utrecht, Twente, Ajax. He's probably going to infiltrate PSV and fire me soon. But like you said, I'm Morocco. Obviously, even though Morocco were like a less dominant possession team, like when they got on the ball, there's a reason why they made it semifinal. It wasn't just because they had a possession. Every time they got on the ball, they were lethal on the counter. Just didn't have the goal scoring always. And I didn't know about I am one of the Premier League fans that didn't know about the possession adjusted stats when I did like my scouting. It's just incredible. Because for me, you're gonna hate this guy. I know you're probably one of the Casemiro's biggest fans on the timeline. I'm not his biggest fan these days, but in my opinion, I think if Amrabat came in Ten Hag's current system, I think Amrabat might usurp him as like the starting 6, just because like you talked about the touches. Amrabat's more comfortable being the 100 touch.
But this is the thing. I think why they're perfect is because they could definitely play together. Like
in big games, I'm playing them together. Just lock up that part of the field and have Bruno ahead of them. Just do his thing and just make sure no one passes. But it's good depth no matter what. Just that we need to bring him in. We need to bring him in because if I watch this midfield again, I'll lose him. But it's a Serie A show, so obviously Fiorentina. I think they took Juve's Conference League spot. Do you have them finishing in a European spot again, or do you think that if they lose, especially if they lose an Amrabat, eventually, do you think that?
I think they will end up losing an Amrabat, and that's why I have them 8th, which could still obviously get them a Conference League spot. They made some really interesting signings at striker. They signed Lucas Beltran from River Plate. They signed that for 20 million. They signed Mbalanzola from Spezia, who was a really good goal scorer for them. They went down last season. So I like those 2 moves. Somehow they sold Arthur Cabral for 25 million to Benfica. I cannot believe somebody paid 25 million for Arthur Cabral. The Luka Jovic experiment finally ended. Thank God. He was so bad. The thing with Fiorentina, unfortunately, is they just have so many good, not great players. And then it's the last time they had like a truly great player. I think Amrabat is closer to great than good, but he's also like a defensive midfielder. Like he's not gonna change your life in that way. But the last time they had a great player was when they had Vlahovic, right? And that was, they finished higher then. But in the attacking department, they just have a lot of good players. That's the general thing. So I think 8th is where I'd have them.
I'm looking at their signings though. Yerry Mina's at Fiorentina. I had no idea.
They signed Fabiano Parisi. They signed him. He's a left back.
Arthur. He made out of Liverpool.
Oh, man, Arthur, Jesus. No, but Fabiano Parisi, I'm telling you, man, that dude is spectacular. And him, I know a lot of people this week were like really impressed with Destiny Udogie, right? At Spurs. Parisi is not the same mold, obviously, but very, very like that kind of level. Very, very good player. Only problem is that it's funny. They signed him for 10 million, which is like everybody should have been on that. Ridiculous how many teams need a left back and they didn't get him. But what's funny is that now the 2 of their 5 best players probably are both left backs, because their captain and probably their best player last season, Christian Biraghi, is also a left back. So I thought that he was
the one that had like the bandage on his
head. The one who got clocked by the beer bottle.
And my trust you when you say these, because Destiny Udogie, but I watched him again. I mean, I knew about him like from Udinese, but the way that he played on Sunday, especially because he's not even an inverted left back. He used to be, because I know Udinese played like the wing back system. He was the one that kept bombing up. He's incredible, and I said he's gonna be top 3 left backs in the Prem by the end of the season. I think him, Estupinan from Brighton, and Shaw are gonna have the top 3 locked up, and whatever order. I don't care, to be honest, but I think he's, and I'm happy to see Serie A players like. Obviously, I want to see some of them stay in the league, but those that deserve the moves, and someone like that Spurs probably should have fought to keep at their team last year, because who was their left back? I think Paris just played left back last year.
Yeah.
If I see Emerson, Sergio Reguilon, who by the way still exists. Honestly, I saw like his name and I thought that he like fell off the face.
Dude, I so forgot that he was, and I watched Atleti, and even I forgot he was at Atleti, and then I saw him in preseason for Spurs. I was like, damn, I cannot believe. Spurs' squad is funny. There's a lot of players you can't. I think they still own Lo Celso, if I'm not wrong. Like
they do, bro. They do.
That's what I'm saying. They still own Lo Celso. They still own Ndombele. Like there's man, that squad is fat. Like they gotta start trimming that shit.
And then if there's one player outside this top 8, top 7 that everyone should watch out for, I know there's a player that came over from the Mexican League, I believe, or the Argentinian League, a striker. I forgot his name.
Oh, Mateo Retegui.
Yeah, is that someone that outside people should watch out for?
Definitely. I think he's just such a perfect mid-table striker. I think he's gonna come in and make 18 teams look really stupid for not signing him. He's the Italy national team striker, starting striker. Everything about him just screams to me like 15 to 18 goals in his first season. So I think he's going to be really, really good for them. He's definitely somebody to watch. I'm trying to think who else. I mean, if you end up watching Gerard Deulofeu, who had Injury issues last year, but man, when he's on the pitch, he is spectacular. He's like I don't know, fucking what's the football? I don't know, like a beta version of like Antoine Griezmann. Like he's that. They give him so much responsibility, and it's a smaller team. You know what I'm saying? And he's just spectacular in that role. So yeah, those two of the guys. I think if you're watching mid-table Serie A teams, those definitely two of the guys you would go for.
I remember Udinese had that good start last year too. I think they were like top of the table for like a week. So
yeah, and then he got injured, and he got injured, and then it fell apart.
Okay. Any player that gets compared to Griezmann is a G mark because Griezmann is one of my favorite players in world football. We're getting that league title this year. I don't bet, so I told my friend that bet. I'm like, put a quick tenner on Atleti winning the league.
I hope so, man.
Xavi hype and Real Madrid have their own issues with everyone tearing the ACL every single week on that team.
Yeah.
So this is our year. And Joao Felix, I think Joao Felix went to Barca today. I think like.
All right, he's gonna on a loan. There's negotiation for a loan. Yeah,
that's Joao Felix. That's another player discussion for another day. But also, I want to talk about this debate that you had this morning that popped up on the timeline from Football Daily, and then Ebe instigated it more by tweeting it. If you blame him, I don't blame you. I blame him for everything that happens on the app anyway. Brighton, obviously, their manager used to coach in Serie A, De Zerbi, Sassuolo. There was an exciting team, and now De Zerbi has kind of taken over. De Zerbi has taken over the Premier League. Pep has gassed him up with like his influence in build-up play, day, and everything. The debate today was, would Brighton win the Serie A? I'll go first. I don't think they can win Serie A. I just think one of your biggest points was like the defense. I do think they leak a lot of goals. They also, just like you mentioned, they lost their starting midfield. Moises Caicedo, Alexis McAllister. Yes, Brighton somehow find a way to replace every player somehow, some way. They have this magical scouting system that somehow gets everything right in life. But those are still UCL level players as they've gone to, well, not Chelsea, but still European top level clubs. I think they would finish like fourth. I put them in that kind of fight. I just don't think put Leao against them.
I think they'd be with Roma, with Atalanta, with Lazio in that group. Maybe even with Juve because Juve aren't that good anymore. Something like that. That's fine. But like this idea that they would come in and like, oh my God, that league. What would we do with Danny Welbeck? No way. Oh my God, Solly March is running at me. What am I going to do? Man, get the hell out of here. This is the thing. If people said this about last year's Brighton team, I would still say no, they obviously couldn't win the league. But at least that would have been for sure a top 4 team. With Caicedo and McAllister and all the yeah, sure. And Colwell, that's a top 4 team. No, I'm cool with saying that, right? It was almost a top 4 team in England. You know what I'm saying? So I'm perfectly fine with if somebody said that. But if you want to tell me now with Mohamed Dahoud and fucking James Milner playing at right back, like now that come on, man. Like we can elevate the discussion a little bit more than that.
Put that defense against Osimhen. It's a wrap, man. He's scoring 4 past him. Like Lewis Dunk's getting. Oh no, he's at Newcastle. Damn. Oh yeah, Lewis Dunk is at Brighton.
No, Lewis Dunk is.
He's getting dunked on.
Yeah.
He's getting dunked on by Osimhen. Like it's just, and Vicha is cooking. Who's that right back for them? James Milner. No one wants to. We saw what Vicha did to Trent in Naples last year.
I know.
It's gonna be a similar mismatch because Tariq Lamptey's cooked part of. He's out of the picture. So yeah, I do think in that term, Serie A does get a bad rep. Outside of the English Big Six, well, Newcastle now. I don't think Spurs can win Serie A.
Yeah.
I think the only team that can win it is United. I don't think United can win Serie A. I'm not even joking. I don't think we're a better team than
Nah, you could win. I'll tell you. City, obviously they would win Serie A. I think Arsenal would probably win it. United could win it.
The big question is Newcastle. Do you think Newcastle can win Serie A?
They could, yeah. They could. I wouldn't pick them, but I think they could win it. But Newcastle to Brighton is just not, because like Newcastle just got a title-winning Serie A, one of like the best midfielders in the league, and they just signed him. And on the other hand, Brighton lost their midfielder of that or their 2 midfielders of that caliber. You know what I'm saying? It's not the same discussion. No, Spurs definitely couldn't win the league. No, absolutely not. But yeah, I think that the top or whatever we're going to talk. Chelsea couldn't win it.
No.
So it's those 4 clubs. I think those could win it.
I don't think Liverpool could win it either. Not with that midfield.
Yeah, no, probably not.
No, I do. I think Newcastle. Like I know you're a big.
Although
fan of
Liverpool would have a shot with the attacking firepower that they have in the
That's
speed.
true,
They would have a shot. Yeah.
Yo, Mo Salah could probably put up like 30.
So that's what I'm
goals.
saying. I would say those 5. Arsenal, City would definitely win it. Arsenal would very likely win it. United, Liverpool, and Newcastle could win it.
I hear that.
Doesn't mean I would pick them to win it.
And then with Newcastle, obviously, I want to talk about Tonali just a little bit. Obviously, he had an amazing debut on Saturday. He scored the first goal within like 5 minutes. First of all, Anthony Gordon, what a cross. That was the peach of the cross. Yeah. And Newcastle, I hate that I'm saying this because I didn't have them this high, but I think they might finish top 3 in the league. This team looks absolutely incredible. They're actually the modern day version of Atleti in a sense, because Eddie Howe has said that he's looked at Diego Simeone tape in terms of managerial, and it seems like they're making that style. With Tonali, obviously I mentioned the Italian curse in a sense with Premier League. Do you think that he's the one that can break this stigma around it?
For sure, because I think he was always, and I said this summer with a lot of people, when a lot of people asked me about him, he's so much more of a Premier League midfielder than he was a Serie A midfielder to begin with, because he wants to play the game at 100 miles an hour. He's always wanted to play the game at 100 miles an hour, which is why, by the way, the Pirlo comparisons were terrible for a lot of reasons, but one of those is that Pirlo was slow, unathletic, and wanted to slow the game down, and Tonali was fast, athletic, and wanted to play the game at 10,000 miles an hour. Which also was a problem at times at Milan. Like he was a psycho. He just wanted to play fast and attack and play the 40-yard ball and all that kind of stuff. That doesn't always suit Serie A. It suits the Premier League to a T. It's exactly how the Premier League is played. You know what I'm saying? Run up and down, make some tackles, play some long balls, do all that kind. That's exactly what the Premier League is. And he fits it like 110%.
No,
he's exactly the guy they want.
The Pirlo, bro. I think it took him about 35 minutes to make it, to be fair, on NBC Sports. So props to them for that. They didn't do it within the first 5 minutes. But I'm always liking him to like Gattuso more. If we're gonna pick any Milan midfielder.
He's even said, like, when he first joined Milan, he was like, they asked him like, "Oh, the Pirlo capacity." He's like, "I don't think those. I'm more of a Gattuso," and I think he's like a hybrid.
Yeah,
he has a lot more technical ability than Gattuso, but also a lot more physicality and speed and athleticism than Pirlo.
I mean, obviously the links came from the long hair, the Brescia start, the one free
kick that
Tonali scored, that one bang.
Yeah,
and then to round it up, you got your top 4, your best player in the league this year, and then we'll sum it up with the best transfer. That's not Milan related.
I'll do. Top 4 is Napoli, Inter, Milan, Juve, in my opinion. Best player is Leao. I don't know if he'll win MVP, but he was the best player. He's always been the best player, in my opinion. Only Osimhen can talk to him realistically. And then best signing that's not. I'm trying to think. I'll give one like top 7, and then I'll give one like that's not 7. So one top 7 signing. I'll do Rovella to Lazio. I think it's a brilliant signing. It's just such a Sarri midfielder. He's gonna be perfect for him. And then non-top 7 or non-top 8, whatever. I think Cyril Ngonge just he left from Hellas to Bologna, which effectively relegates Hellas Verona. I mean, they're gone, but he is fantastic. He came in January last year and basically kept Hellas up. He's so good. I think he's only 22. Like I think he's actually going to be like a top player.
So my top 4, I'll go Napoli first. I'll go Milan second. I'll go Inter. I'll go Juve third. I'll go Inter fourth. I think Inter are going to go deep in UCL again because Inzaghi has this magic for the cups that he translates well. Juve have the 1 game a week, which I think Allegri will benefit Allegri so much because he could just keep it that way. And I think Milan, you've had the best transfer window outside in terms of like the big clubs because like Chukwueze for me is the transfer because I'm not a Milan fan, so I say Chukwueze is my signing of summer because we've seen how Milan won a title without a right hand side pretty much, just Calabria really, no right winger. Adding someone that's young, quick, electric, has proven that he could contribute in the final third. He's not like dead in the final third or anything. Adding that element, as long as Leao can also stay healthy, and you get some sort of effort from Olivier Giroud, he just has to contribute in some shape and form. I don't know if he will. Maybe Okafor takes over for him by January. Who knows? I'm sure you'll probably hope that. Yeah, I'm sure you'll hope that. I just think Milan, I think they can contend. I also think Milan could be dangerous in UCL as well again last year. I think getting over that hump that you guys were able to break through, like that round of 16, because you hadn't been deep in UCL in such a long time,
right.
And then you beat one of the best teams in Europe last year in Napoli. So you're showing that your heritage is still there in a sense, like it's not dead.
For sure.
And having, like I said, Leao, Chukwueze, that's perfect knockout tournament football players right there. Just that electricity. And if obviously you can't start Giroud, and if you want to make it far in UCL, you got to start Okafor, because Giroud, UCL knockout nights, Tuesday nights, it's not happening.
Yeah.
And then I was not doing that. I'm trying to think about anything else. Oh, that was pretty much it. So, yeah. Thank you for coming on again. Obviously,
of course, man. Thanks for having me.
Your great content's amazing.
Thank you.
Rants are a legend. Your rants are legendary, bro. Make me crack up. I can't lie. Because I'm a ranting guy myself. I don't know if you know, but I've basically claimed the title Mr. Negativity on United Twitter.
I see that. Yeah.
I hold about 25 quote tweets every single day. Is what it is. Gotta take the good with the bad. So I appreciate you coming on. Obviously, you're closer to me than other Twitter mutuals because you live in the States.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, obviously I wish Milan the best of luck. My second favorite club. I hope you guys do win the Scudetto.
So do I.
So yeah. I didn't get my player of the year. Whoops. That's the one I forgot.
Oh.
I'll back it with Leao. I think Leao, provided he stays healthy, I think he could get, I'm gonna say 2010 season.
I agree.
A double. Because I know he gets a lot of hate. There's one certain Twitter user that puts a lot of hate on Leao. We won't mention names, but we all know who it is because he also triggers me with his United takes as well. But Leao is a world-class player, and he's this new breed of, I guess, like left forward in a sense, because he's not a winger, but I think he's more, compared to my guy, I think he's more of a wide winger because he's a better ball carrier. But I just think Leao's a special talent, and props to you guys for keeping him, because honestly, I thought by mid-April he was going to be gone. But Maldini's last act of magic was to keep him. And Milan, by the way, do you think Milan stays after, do you think that he leaves in the next summer, or do you guys think you keep him long-term?
I don't know. I generally don't get hung up that much about goalkeepers just because of the position, but I mean, he is so spectacular. I think the only thing that would, maybe stop other teams is the injury record. He's kind of he's been an injury-prone goalkeeper, which is an awful position to have, be injury-prone. I mean, he missed 4 months for us last season. So, I hope we can keep him long term. I really do. And he is such a difference maker.
The only club you have to worry about is the blue club in London, who love to spend money. They might just come in for him and get the 100 mil. But otherwise, because you guys are, I'm sure, going to put a high value on him. Because for me, in terms of valuable goalkeepers, it's Alisson, and then it's Milan. Because I've seen Milan without Milan. Tata Rusano is the worst goalkeeper you've ever seen in your life. I'm sure you'll agree with that. So.
I have respect for Tata Rusano because he saved a penalty in the derby in Scudetto season which effectively won us the title. So
fair enough.
I give him respect for that. But he was pretty bad last year,
But again, thanks for coming on. If you want to plug your stuff real quick, I'm gonna put it in the description as well. But
if you guys want to go find me at bdairball, my first name then ball, or my last name, my last name then ball. Yes, it'll be in the description. I probably should have put it where my name is displayed, but I obviously forgot. I do a lot of different content, mostly Serie A and Milan, but there's a lot more to come from there. So
I hope we see some basketball stuff. I know you're a big basketball guy too. So
I put the basketball stuff on hold a little bit because I want to focus on football, but hopefully, in the future for sure.
To be fair, the Wizards aren't that. The Wizards probably.
I was never gonna talk about the Wizards anyway. Jesus, I don't want to cry on in front of camera.
You're a big Giannis guy, so I respect that for that.
Yeah,
that's my guy. So again, thank you for Bdair for coming on. In terms of my stuff, make sure you just check out Saeed's stream that I just did. America Talks about an hour ago. You guys find me on there. This will be up tomorrow morning. I know you have a Serie A preview. Did you drop it today, or are you dropping it?
I was supposed to drop it today, but of course I couldn't edit it in
time. Don't worry. But I don't really.
Maybe tomorrow or Saturday. I'm not sure.
You can drop it tomorrow morning. I'm probably gonna forget too because I have a haircut in the morning. So I'm gonna forget to drop it too. So make sure you guys check out the Bdair stuff again. I'm gonna put it in the description. This will come out, and then Saturday we play Spurs. So I'll do the match review right after that. May we win. Please God win, because I don't need to hold another 30 quote tweets on my head for Twitter. I hate that app so much. Yeah, it's so important in life. It's the biggest thing I've ever done. But yeah, thank you again for coming on, and that's it from us. Peace.
Yeah.